Hello people, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to start with a topic which is diversity in the living world. Please do watch the video till the end, and if you like the video, please do share and subscribe. Okay, so let's get into the topic now. So we are going to start off with, as I told you, diversity in the living world. Okay, now what is diversity here? Diversity means the different kind of organisms which are seen around us. So what is diversity? Different species or organisms around us. Isn't it? This is what is diversity, right? Now, according to IUCN, so what is the full form of IUCN here? It is International Union of Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. So what is the full form of IUCN? It is International Union of Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. So according to IUCN, there are 1.7 to 1.8 million species on Earth. So how many species are there on Earth? 1.7 to 1.8 million species are there on Earth. Okay. Now, is it simple if you just know that this organism is having this character, this organism is having this character, and will you be able to identify? Now, suppose there is no particular name given to a mango. Okay. Now, I want mango. I want to go and buy a mango. I'll go to the vendor and I keep on saying it's a yellow color, it tastes sweet, and this all explanation I'll give. But the vendor won't understand because there are many yellow fruits which will be very tasty, isn't it? So that's why we should assign a proper name to the organism. So what are the two basic things to assign a scientific name? So what are the two basic things? What are the two basic things to assign a scientific name? Okay, so if you want to give an organism a name, what are the two basic things we should follow? The first thing that we should follow is nomenclature. So what is the first thing that we have to follow? Nomenclature. Now, how would you define nomenclature as? Nomenclature is naming of an organism which need to be accepted by all. So naming an organism, and it should be accepted by all. So should be accepted by all. Okay. Now, the second thing that we need to remember is identification. The second thing we have to remember is identification. Now, what is identification? It is important wherever we go, whichever place we go, it has to be recognized. Okay. Wherever we travel, it has to be recognized. Clear? So these are the two basic things the organism should have, and we should give a scientific name to it. Okay. Now, what are rules and recommendations of nomenclature? So let's see rules and recommendations. Rules and recommendations for nomenclature. What are the basic things that we need to know now? Okay. Now, the most accepted system, okay, the most accepted system is given by Carolus Linnaeus. So who has given us the most accepted system? It is given by Carolus Linnaeus. Okay. Now, what is this most accepted system called? It is called as binomial nomenclature. What is it called? Binomial nomenclature. Okay, so binomial nomenclature. So this is the most accepted system of naming. Okay, now what are the rules of this binomial nomenclature? What should we know about the binomial nomenclature? The first thing is that it has two parts. How many parts it has? Two parts. What are those? It is genus and species. So what is it having? It is having two parts, genus and species. Second thing is that each organism is only given one name with two words. So each organism has one name with two words. And what are those two words? Genus and species. Okay. Now, from where these names are taken? They are taken from Latin language. Names are taken from Latin language. Names are taken from Latin language. Okay. Now next, now always remember that when it is printed, that means when the scientific names are printed, they have to be printed in italics. What they have to be printed in? Italics. But when they are handwritten, they need to be underlined separately. When they are handwritten, they need to be underlined separately. Clear, all of you? Did you understand this? So when they are printed, they should be in italics. But when they are when they're handwritten, they have to be underlined separately. Okay. Now, next point is genus should always start with a capital letter. Genus always starts with a capital letter, whereas species always start with a small letter. Species always starts with a small letter. Did you understand this? Any doubts here? Now, sometimes there is an abbreviation used. Sometimes what happens? The name of author is given after species. Name of the author is given after species in abbreviation. Clear? Did you understand? So let's take an example. That would be a better way to understand, isn't it? Now I am taking an example, okay, which is my favorite, Mangifera indica. Mangifera indica linen. Okay. Now, what is the first one? How many parts it is having? What is the first rule here? It is having two parts, which is genus and species. So, how many parts it has? It has two parts, which is genus and species. Clear? Now, from where are these organisms taken? The names of these organisms, it is taken from a Latin language. Okay. Now, each organism has one name with two words. Correct? No? What are those two words? Genus and species. Now, when they are printed, they have to be printed in italics. But when they are handwritten, now I've written with hand, no? They need to be underlined separately. They need to be underlined separately. Now you can ask me, ma'am, there are three words now. Why are you calling it as a binomial nomenclature? You can call it as a trinomial nomenclature, no? Here we are just considering genus and species. We are not considering author's name. Author's name is just an abbreviation. It is just to indicate that it was Linnaeus who has discovered it. Simple. There's no other purpose there. Okay. So did you understand now? So it is underlined separately when it is handwritten. Okay. One more, what is it? Genus always starts with a capital letter, isn't it? Species always starts with a small letter. Clear? You can try out with other examples also. I have used one example. You can use another examples like Homo sapiens. Okay, you can take Homo sapiens. You can take many other examples. Clear? Now, coming to the next topic. Now, what is the need for classification? Why should we classify organisms? So, our next concept is need for classification. Need for classification. So, why we have to classify organisms? So that our work becomes easy, isn't it? So, why we have to classify? The first thing is to study and know all different organisms. To study and know all different organisms. Okay. So now when you classify organisms, it will make the study easy. Makes the study easy, isn't it? Now, what is classification? How would you define classification as? Classification is grouping of organism. So, what is classification? Classification means it is the process of categorizing different organisms. The process of categorizing different organisms. On what basis? On the basis of some easy or easily observable characters. Easily observable characters. Clear? Now, what is the branch of science called which is dealing with this? So, branch of science that deals with the study of principles and procedures of classification is called taxonomy. It's called taxonomy. Okay. Now, what is taxonomy? What all taxonomy includes? Let's see now. Okay. So, taxonomy includes 4 steps. Okay. Now, what is the first step here? First step is characterization. Second step is identification. third step is classification. And fourth step is nomenclature. So what all taxonomy include? It include characterization, it include identification, classification, and nomenclature. Clear, all of you? Now, what are the types of taxonomy? So what are the types of taxonomy? So we have two types of taxonomy. Okay. So what are they? It is modern taxonomy. Okay. And classical taxonomy. Now, what is modern taxonomy? Which include both external and internal characters, which include both external and internal characters. Okay. Whereas classical means what? It is few morphological characters. Few morphological characters. Few morphological characters. Okay. Now, I spoke about internal, no? So external to we understand, isn't it? It is based upon how the organism look, what is the features of it, these all, correct, no? Now, what are internal characters? What are we depending upon? We depend upon the cell structure. Okay. We depend upon how the cell is developing. That means the development. And we also depend upon the ecological information. We also depend upon the ecological information. So these are the characters, the internal characters, basically they look for. Clear to all of you? Any doubts here? Okay. Now let's go for the next. Now here if you observe, now what did I tell you? What is taxonomy? It is characterization. Isn't it? It is nomenclature. Then classification. Identification. Isn't it? So these are the four things what we basically do in taxonomy now. So for this, if you add phylogenetic relationship, for this if you add phylogenetic relationship, for this if you add phylogenetic relationship, you get a new concept called systematics. What is a new concept called systematics? So this can be expected as a question. Okay. So when you add phylogenetic relationship to taxonomy, then that will relate to what us? It is relating to systematics. Clear? Now, next concept is trinomial nomenclature. Okay. Now in trinomial nomenclature, there's only one thing that is added, that is subspecies. So what is trinomial nomenclature? It includes genus, it includes species, it includes subspecies. So let's take an example and understand, no? Isn't it? So what is example here now? We take gorilla, gorilla, and gorilla. So this is what is genus, species, subspecies. Okay. Now, next example for this, if you want, you can take one more example for this, which is Corvus splendens. Splendens. Okay. So it is genus, species, subspecies. Clear? Now, who has given this concept of trinomial nomenclature? It was given by Lamarck. It is given by Lamarck.